Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to Season 3, Week 15 of the DC Sports Digest. Another interesting week, a lot of interesting games to talk about, so without further ado, let's just get started. Starting with the Nats, they made a couple more waiver claims, claiming Sung Chae Chang, Richard Lovelady, and George Storiano off waivers. We'll see if these guys end up making the roster and having an impact on the season. But not too much else for the Nats. I guess spring training will probably start at some point in February, so not too long. On to the Wizards, pretty interesting week for them. They beat the Blazers and Bucks, the loss to the Hornets and Lakers. Against the Hornets, they started the youngest lineup in NBA history with Trey Johnson, Will Riley, Alex Sarr, Keyshawn George, and Bub Carrington. I think a combined age of like 20 or something, which is kind of crazy. Great to see our youth all getting starts. And Trey Johnson also had his career high 26 in a narrow loss to the Hornets. Also want to congratulate Keyshawn George, Alex Sarr, and Trey Johnson for being selected to the Rising Stars game. So that'll be exciting. Get to see some of our guys at All-Star Weekend. And then against the Bucks was a really great game. Alex Sarr had 29 points, 11 boards in the win. He outdueled Donovan Clingan, who had 14 points and 20 rebounds. That was a really nice matchup. It's too bad they only get to play twice a year, but that was a really interesting matchup. I had fun watching that. Sarr versus Clingan. And then Keyshawn George had 23, and Alex Sarr had a double-double. In a nice win versus the Bucks, celebrating John Wall on John Wall night. So that was great to see. I thought they were going to retire his jersey on John Wall night, but they did a great tribute to him, and that was just great to see. Then last night, we got blown out by the Lakers. Luka Doncic just destroyed us. 37-point triple-double basically in 3 quarters. And it was just no contest in that game. So we have a 12-35 record, still kind of in the bottom of the standings, which I guess is good for our tanking. But obviously, as you can see from this week, we've shown a lot of flashes. Coming this week, we have games versus the Kings, Knicks, and Pistons. That's all I have for the Wizards. On to the Caps. They beat the Red Wings in overtime, lost to the Oilers in overtime, and lost to the Kraken, giving them to a 26, 22, and 7 record at 59 points. Two small things before I talk about the games. Pierre-Luc Dubois is making progress from his long-term injury. I think he'll be back maybe after the Olympic break, which will be great to see. We also re-signed Bogdan Triniev, made a good impact coming up from Hershey. Congrats to Jacob Chikrin, reaching 300 career points in the loss to the Oilers in overtime, which is kind of unfortunate. That was a pretty crazy game, very high scoring. Definitely a winnable game, but we kept taking penalties and just could not win that one. Then we got blown out by the Kraken, 5-1, which is not really great. But we used that bad game as a fire, and we played really well against the Red Wings. But obviously, at the last 3 minutes of the game, we blew a 3-1 lead. Somehow we held on to win the shootout. Unfortunately, Charlie Lindgren was hurt. He barely made it through that shootout. He was lucky. One of those shots, the Red Wings shots, hit off the crossbar, and none of the Capitals missed. And we were able to finally win our first shootout of the season. We're now 1-5 in the shootout. But unfortunately, both our goalies are injured. Logan Thompson is already day-to-day, and now Charlie Lindgren's hurt. So we'll see what happens. We signed someone. I think we signed Clay Stevenson, who maybe will play today against the Hurricanes. We'll see what happens to that. But we have 4 more games this week. We have the Hurricanes, Islanders, Flyers, and Predators before that Olympic break, and we'll see a couple of the Capitals players in that. And I'll keep you guys apprised of what happens with the Capitals players in those. But for this week, hopefully we can survive and get a couple points while both our goalies are hurt. That's all I have for the Caps limping into that Olympic break. On to the Commanders, we got our new defensive coordinator. We interviewed and hired Vikings defensive pass game coordinator Durante Jones for the defensive coordinator position. He worked under Brian Flores in Minnesota, and there's a chance that Brian Flores just recommended him for this job. And obviously we must have interviewed really well. We got our new defensive coordinator. I'm pretty excited for this guy. I think he should hopefully work out, and hopefully we can surround him with some more talent. If you want to hear more, I made a short about this earlier this week, so make sure to check that out. And we kind of thought maybe he would change some things around with the coaching and get some of his own coaches that he likes. So defensive pass game coordinator Jason Simmons joined the Steelers on his own. He got a job with them, reuniting with his Mike McCarthy, who he's worked with. And then we recently just parted ways with Ryan Kerrigan, Sharif Floyd, and Pete Onagian. So some more guys on that staff that are going to be some turnover. So hopefully we can hire some more solid position coaches and fill out Durante Jones' staff. So hopefully he can do that pretty well. They also announced the salary cap. It's going to be over $300 million for the first time, which is kind of crazy. The Commanders have around $70 million to spend. They also have to spend some money on draft picks, and they still may cut some people or restructure some contracts. So we have a lot of money to spend. And it may not be the best free agency class, but I think we still need to spend it. You saw what happened when the Patriots and Bears spent a lot of money last year. It really made a big impact on their playoff run. So I think we need to spend some money in free agency. Obviously, not go too overboard, but also not just be cheap with every contract and not spend a lot. Since we have a lot to spend. And that's all I have for the Commanders. We had the Senior Bowl and Shrine Bowl recently, so a lot of draft talk starting to heat up. And then Combine will be at the end of February, and then free agency in March. That's a little bit of the offseason timeline. Also, the Super Bowl will be next week, Patriots and the Seahawks. That's all I have for the Commanders. Not much other DC sports news, but I saw something yesterday that they're going to have an IndyCar race in DC, so that'll be kind of interesting. Kind of cool to have some racing in DC, and just some more events in this area. And then also DC Power is going to resume their season next week, and like I said, we'll have some more other DC sports news in the following weeks. Weekly awards, my game of the week is going to the Wizards beating the Bucks at 109 and 99. Looked pretty dominant in that game, and also getting a win on John Wall night. It's great to see. Player of the week is Alex Sarr, 21 points per game this week. And wrapping up the Wizards sweep, I have the Wizards as my team of the week. 2-2 record this week. Pretty solid week for them. That's all I have for this video, so thanks for watching. Check out the Instagram. Also, check out the new YouTube short I made about the defensive coordinator if you want to hear more about him. That's all I have for this video, so thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.